A tradition most often overlooked by many is the father giving away the daughter's hand in a wedding ceremony. Many observers do not understand the cultural context of this tradition or its oppressive and materialistic message behind the seemingly harmless gesture. But should this tradition stick around, or should it disappear in hopes of creating a more modern and progressive approach to having weddings? Well, the origin of this tradition started with arranged marriages. So it initially was a contract between the father and the groom, and they would be able to trade property and finances through this agreement, and it gave ownership from the father to the new groom of this woman. So the men would be gaining the responsibility of the woman and also boasting rights. So anyone within that town that was affiliated once with the bride's family is now affiliated with him, and it makes better for trading and any other financial agreements. The biggest part of this tradition was the passing of the hands. So this initially symbolized the father passing the hand into the groom, basically passing property into the hand of the groom and the duties of the woman, which we obviously know is not true today, at least hopefully. And so the meaning today is more so the father giving his blessing and wishing happiness and prosperity onto the new family. A sign of the relationship between the father and bride was kind of shown between this tradition. So it was more so a photo op or showing the connection between the father and the bride and what they had. So now they have many alternatives today, because many women don't have fathers that are around that they would like to present to their family and friends. Some just don't have a good relationship with their father, maybe they're not around. So many women have now been using sisters, mothers, best friends for the same exact task. Obviously not following the tradition, but the tradition isn't really known with context today. So should this tradition be put to rest? Why, I think it shouldn't. The meaning today isn't what it originated as. Obviously, well, for the most part, we think that people getting married is a sign of union and love, and it's not a financial agreement or trading of property. So I think that is never really understood in putting this ceremony or putting this tradition in a ceremony. And this is kind of like a special time between the bride and her father. Again, it's like a photo op and just a time for them to spend together before she goes and spends her life with another man. And this is oftentimes a big time for the father because the mother is usually more involved in the wedding planning process. So this gives the father a time to have some time with his daughter, be a part of the planning and a part of the ceremony where he more wouldn't be in any other part of it. So why I think it should be a part of the wedding still is, or why I think it shouldn't, it still has this materialistic, oppressive, and upsetting undertone to a really happy day. So I think if people do know the background to this story, it would definitely put a damper on the feeling of what's supposed to be happy and what's supposed to be a time shared between the father and the bride. Also, there are many alternatives today to showing this connection between the father and the bride. There's many dances between the father and the bride. There can be speeches. The opportunities are endless, and there really isn't a need for this anymore. And since now, today, people are using a way more modern tradition in wedding planning, it's definitely not going to be seen as something weird or going against the grain. It'll just be something seen as a new tradition that might carry on into new generations, maybe fade out this old tradition. So in conclusion, I believe that this tradition should obviously be left up to the couple because it's their day. They can obviously decide, and it doesn't have to mean what it once did. Because of this tradition, I think that the meaning will slowly disintegrate because it's obviously not happening like that anytime today. But I don't think it would ever really be like harmful to society to continue this tradition, even though it did have very, very strong materialistic undertones towards women. Now today seen more as just a bond between the father and the daughter. Personally, I like to think about what I would do, and I think I would do an alternative in my wedding just because I do know the background, and it just doesn't seem very right for me. It doesn't seem like I would need a very traditional wedding, so I would probably move towards like a dance between me and my dad or something else to show our relationship than this kind of worn out tradition. And then I leave you with this, and I wanted to ask you guys a question. So now knowing about this tradition and its origins, what do you think you would do in your wedding, and would you stick with this tradition, or would you find a new alternative? And if you did find a new alternative, what would it be? Thank you.